Welcome back to Terror and Urban Myths, where we explore the dark side of folklore and the chilling tales that haunt our collective imagination.
Oh, yeah.
And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a like if you're enjoying the show. It really helps us out. Tonight we're venturing into a world where the line between civilization and the wild kind of blurs,
Right.
A place where nature seems to hold these ancient grudges.
Yeah.
And unleashes its fury in ways we never expect.
Uh,
So get ready, because tonight's episode is all about the revenge of the raccoons.
Ooh.
This story really dives headfirst into our primal fears. It makes you question those seemingly harmless creatures that we share our world with,
Yeah.
I mean, we've all seen those cute raccoon videos online.
Right.
But this story isn't about adorable trash pandas.
No. This is something else entirely.
What's truly unsettling is how this story preys on our deep-seated anxieties,
Yeah.
The fear that our actions, even seemingly insignificant ones, can have unintended and terrifying consequences. Yeah. It's like that butterfly effect
Exactly.
kind of thing. Like one tiny thing can just set off this whole
chain of events.
Chain reactions.
Yeah.
It starts with a woman who's consumed by guilt and remorse after her boyfriend Tommy disappears on their anniversary. The story really digs into the emotional weight she carries, the torment of unanswered questions, and the chilling fragments of memory that plague her.
It's heavy stuff.
It's really heavy stuff.
Yeah, and the last thing she remembers is seeing Tommy face down on the gravel driveway.
Why?
The story doesn't explicitly say what happened,
Right.
but you immediately feel the weight of her anxiety and dread.
And then there's this tiny detail that sends her spiraling into paranoia. She forgot to feed the raccoons
Oh, wow.
that live near their home.
Right.
It makes you wonder,
Right.
could something so small trigger such horrific consequences?
That's the genius of the story, right? Where it makes you question everything. Is this just a coincidence, or is there something more sinister at play? It forces you to confront the possibility that we might not fully understand the consequences of our actions, especially when it comes to the natural world.
Yeah, and the story keeps you on the edge of your seat with these vivid descriptions of the woman's fragmented memories of that night. The blood, the claw marks, Tommy's agonized screams. You feel like you're right there with her.
Oh, yeah.
Experiencing the terror firsthand.
Yeah, those sensory details are crucial. They ground the story in a reality that feels unnervingly familiar, which makes the supernatural elements even more unsettling. And then there's the mysterious bouquet of purple flowers that appears on her doorstep the next day. Is it an apology? A threat?
Or maybe it's something else entirely. We're left to grapple with the ambiguity of this symbol. Could it be a message from Tommy? Is he still out there somewhere?
This is where the story truly gets under your skin. It challenges our perception of raccoons. We typically see them as harmless tricksters. But in this tale, they're transformed into vengeful agents of nature's wrath.
Oh, wow. So it's not just some silly campfire story about raccoons seeking revenge. This story cleverly uses this unsettling situation to explore deeper themes like guilt and paranoia, and how these emotions can just warp our perception of reality.
Yeah.
Think about it. The woman's guilt, amplified by her imagination, turns her into a prisoner of her own mind.
And it makes you think, is nature truly holding a grudge, or are her fears simply projections of her own guilt and anxieties? It's like a psychological thriller, but with this added layer of supernatural dread.
Yeah, it's a chilling exploration of how our minds can become our own worst enemies, particularly when we're grappling with guilt and fear.
Right.
We can so easily get trapped in these cycles of self-blame and paranoia where every coincidence feels like a sign and every shadow seems to hold a threat.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how much of what we perceive as reality is actually shaped by our internal state, our fears and anxieties.
Right.
It's a question that's fascinated philosophers and psychologists for centuries. Our brains are hardwired to seek patterns and make connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're in a heightened emotional state, sometimes we see patterns where there are none,
Right.
connecting dots that shouldn't be connected. And our imaginations fill in the blanks with our worst fears.
And in this story, those fears are centered around these seemingly vengeful raccoons.
Right.
It's interesting how the story takes these mischievous, almost comical figures and twists them into something genuinely menacing.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that nature can be both beautiful and terrifying.
Right.
And that even the most familiar creatures can hold secrets and dangers we may not fully comprehend.
Yeah.
The story taps into our primal fear of the wild, of the unknown forces that exist beyond the boundaries of our civilization.
We try to keep nature at bay with our walls and fences.
Right.
But this story suggests that those boundaries are fragile. You
Yeah.
know, that the wild can encroach upon our lives in unexpected and terrifying ways.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme in folklore and horror stories, right? The idea that nature is not something to be tamed or controlled, but something to be respected, even feared.
And it feels especially relevant today as we face the consequences of climate change and the destruction of our natural world.
Exactly.
What happens when we push nature too far?
Right.
What happens when we disrupt the balance? This story leaves us pondering those very questions.
It does.
The story also highlights the power of symbolism.
Yeah.
Take the bouquet of purple flowers, for example. It's a seemingly simple detail, yet it's laden with multiple interpretations.
On one hand, the flowers could be seen as a gesture of peace, an attempt by the raccoons to apologize for their actions, or perhaps to offer solace to the grieving woman.
But on the other hand, the flowers could also be interpreted as a threat, a reminder that the raccoons are watching,
Right.
that they haven't forgotten her transgression.
Exactly.
It's this very ambiguity that makes the story so effective.
We're left with more questions than answers, and it invites us to fill in the blanks with our own interpretations, our own fears. It's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it,
Yeah.
It makes you question what you believe, what you fear, and what you're willing to accept as reality.
That unsettling feeling, that lingering sense of unease, is what makes it a truly great horror story. It's not just about jump scares or gore,
Right.
but about tapping into something deeper,
Yeah.
something primal, something that resonates with our deepest fears and anxieties.
Exactly. And The Revenge of the Raccoons achieves that with chilling effectiveness. It makes you reconsider your relationship with the world around you.
The story doesn't shy away from the gruesome details either. The blood, the claw marks the descriptions of Tommy's injuries. It's all very visceral and disturbing. It's a reminder that we are part of a larger ecosystem and that our actions, no matter how small, can have ripple effects we might not fully anticipate.
It's a chilling thought, but it's one that we should all keep in mind. The story forces us to confront the darker aspects of human nature and the uneasy truce we have with the natural world.
It really doesn't let you forget the psychological aspect of it all.
Yeah.
The story really delves into the woman's psyche, her descent into paranoia and guilt.
Yeah, it's as if she's being punished not just by these raccoons, but by her own mind. The guilt she carries over forgetting to feed them becomes this overwhelming force that distorts her perception of reality. It's like she's projecting her own anxieties and fears onto these creatures, turning them into scapegoats for her perceived failings.
And it's such a stark reminder of how powerful and destructive guilt can be. It can eat away at us from the inside.
Oh, absolutely.
In her case, it creates the perfect breeding ground for paranoia and fear.
Yeah, and it's also a testament to the power of storytelling. The way the story is structured with its fragmented memories and ambiguous symbols leaves so much open to interpretation. It allows us as listeners to fill in the blanks with our own fears and anxieties, making the story even more personal and unsettling.
And the story doesn't shy away from the gruesome details. The blood, the claw marks the descriptions of Tommy's injuries. It's also visceral and disturbing. But it's those details that make the story so effective, so haunting.
Yeah, they ground the story in a reality that feels all too familiar. It's that juxtaposition of the ordinary and the extraordinary that makes the horror so much more potent.
And then there's that final image, the bouquet of purple flowers. It's such a simple gesture, yet it carries so much weight. It could be seen as a piece offering a sign of remorse, or even a final twisted act of revenge.
It's a symbol that's open to multiple interpretations, which adds another layer of complexity and unease to the story. It leaves you wondering, even after the story has ended, what the flowers truly represent, what message they convey.
It's a story that stays with you long after you've finished hearing it. It makes you question the nature of reality, the power of guilt and fear, and the fragile balance we have with the natural world.
Absolutely. And it serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the things we take for granted, the creatures we dismiss as harmless, can hold a power and a darkness we might never fully comprehend.
Well, on that chilling note, we're going to wrap up this episode of Terror in Urban Myths. We hope you enjoyed our exploration into the unsettling tale of The Revenge of the Raccoons. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the show. Until next time, stay curious and remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that whisper just beyond the edge of our understanding.